Welcome to Home Cooking with Holly. Today, we're making something very special. It's great to serve for the holidays. Prime rib. And my favorite thing to serve with prime rib, Yorkshire pudding. So you want a 6 to 7 pound rib roast. This one is just over 6. And you can see it has some strings attached to it here. That's okay, we're gonna leave that on there. It helps to leave the bottom bones connected, which will add more flavor to your meat. After it's cooked, we'll go ahead and cut these strings and remove that part, okay? And just like I do with chicken, I have one hand that's touched raw meat and one hand that has not. So what we're gonna do is I just took this out of the refrigerator. I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt and rub it all over this roast. And I want to rub some on the bone side as well, around the bones, because there's some yummy meat there that's going to get some great flavor. And the next important part is we are going to wrap this with some plastic wrap and let it set out to get to room temperature for about 3 hours. And the reason we do that is because it will help the meat to cook more evenly. Okay, there we go. And now I'm just going to set a timer for 3 hours and then we'll come back to it. All right, it's been 3 hours. Now what I'm going to do is just pat that roast dry with some paper towels. The salt does pull out moisture. And I've made my prime rib rub. It is a half a tablespoon of salt, half a tablespoon of pepper, a teaspoon of rosemary, half a teaspoon of thyme, about half a tablespoon of garlic, which is minced, and 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And I just mix that all in. And what I'm going to do is just use my hands. You can put gloves on if you'd like, and rub that all over this roast. You want to get it on all the sides, on the top, on the bottom, on the ends. This is going to bring out such delicious flavor in our roast. Get all of that in there. Beautiful. Another very important step when you're making a prime rib roast is you do want a thermometer. You want to make sure your meat reaches the temperature that you want, okay? So what I'm going to do is stick my thermometer probe in the center up to the little line on here so that it goes down into that meat into the center really well. Okay. And then my oven is preheating to 500 degrees. I'm going to roast it uncovered for 15 minutes. And then I'm going to reduce the temperature to 350 degrees. I am going to cook it for 13 to 14 minutes per pound. And remember, this one was just over 6 pounds, about 6.1. Thermometers like this one allow you to set a timer for it to go off when you reach the desired temperature. And for me, that's going to be 130 degrees. And then when I take it out and let that meat rest with foil tenting it, the juices will go back into the roast and make it nice and juicy while it's resting. And the meat will continue to rise in temperature up to the 135, which is what I want. So the reason I'm going to put it in at 500 degrees for 15 minutes first is so that I can form a nice crust on the outside of the roast. And then I'll lower the temperature to cook this nice and slow. So I added about 2 cups of water to the bottom of the pan. The reason I did this is the evaporation of the water and also the steam it creates will help the meat to stay tender and not dry out. Also, it will catch the juices and help me to make a delicious gravy. To make our Yorkshire pudding, or do you call it Yorkshire pudding? First, what I want to do is add a cup of flour, half a teaspoon of salt. We're just going to kind of mix that together and form a little well in the center. And to that, I'm going to add a cup of milk, a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and 2 eggs that are slightly beaten. And then I'm going to mix that together. All right, we just want to mix it together till it's smooth. Now you can make Yorkshire pudding in a large pan. For this amount, I would probably do like an 8 by 8, or you can do it the way I'm going to do in a muffin pan. Also, if you want to double this recipe, because this usually gives me 6 or 7 Yorkshire puddings, if you want to double that, make sure you add an extra egg. So instead of 4, you would use 5. I'm going to pop a lid on it. You can also use plastic wrap if you don't have a lid for whatever container you're using. And I'm actually just going to set this aside for 1 hour. All right, after the hour, as you can see, it's gotten a bit foamy. It's fermented just a little bit. And we are going to add it to our pan. I have a muffin pan here. And as you can see, I have some butter. You can do it with butter. I have some with meat drippings from the roast. And you can also use bouillon if you'd really like to give it that meaty flavor. But it's fine to use butter if you're making this on a day that you didn't make a roast. The pan did preheat in the oven. I brought it up to 450 degrees, and now I'm going to pour the batter, and I'm going to get 7, it looks like. Now I'll pop these into the oven for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'll turn the temperature down to 350 degrees and bake them for another 8 minutes. And our prime rib is done. I'm going to tent it with some foil and let it rest for about 30 minutes while the juices reabsorb into the roast. And our Yorkshire pudding is halfway done. I'm now turning the temperature down to 350 and we'll go for 8 more minutes. All right, here is one I've cut for you. It's very, very hot, very hot. So be careful when you're taking them out of the pan. You can see the beautiful texture on the inside. They're delicious, nice and buttery. And you can really taste the saltiness of the roast in them. And now we're going to make our gravy. So I'm making a roux with some butter and flour, about 1 tablespoon of butter and 2 tablespoons of flour. And I'm just going to mix those in over about a medium-high heat. And to this, I'm going to add a lot of the drippings from the pan that my prime rib roast was in, and about 1 cup of beef broth, and 1/4 cup or so of red wine. We want to whisk this and bring it to a boil, and then we'll simmer it until it thickens to the consistency that we want. We've cut into our prime rib, nice and pink inside. Looks delicious, smells delicious. It's between a medium rare and a rare, which is just what we like. Let's give it a taste. Succulent, juicy, so moist. It's delicious. Now you can serve this with horseradish, gravy like I did, or au jus. If you'd like to learn how to make au jus, let me know in the comments and I'll film a video for you. Please like and subscribe and follow me for more recipes and cooking tips.